Suzane Louise von Richthofen, the older sister of Andreas Albert, was born on November 3, 1983, in São Paulo, Brazil. Her father was German engineer Manfred Albert von Richthofen, director of Dursa, a state-owned highway management company, and chief engineer of the Mario Covas Beltway project. His mother was a Lebanese-Brazilian psychiatrist, Marísia Silvia Abdallah. The couple met in the 1970s, when Marísia was studying medicine and Manfred was studying engineering at USP, University of São Paulo. The young couple got married and then left to study in Germany. Friends from college said that Manfred was aloof, but he had a good nature and was polite. His wife, on the other hand, was a sociable chatterbox. Her brother describes the woman in a slightly different way, but I'll talk about that at the very end. After returning to Brazil, the couple settled in the southern zone of São Paulo, where they spent the next 15 years. The family lived in Brazil and were doing really well. The value of their property was valued at €800,000. The girl was smart, and by the age of 5 she could read and write. Katia Martinho, director of the Colégio Criativo where she attended, remembers her as a child showing a lot of affection, but also as very lively. In addition, little Susie stuck to the rules, accepted the prohibitions and was not in the habit of getting hysterical. She then graduated from the Humboldt School, where she attended Class B from the 6th grade, where German was the only language of instruction. She was the best student. Between the ages of 12 and 16, the girl was also one of the best people who trained karate 3 times a week at the fight gym. And here, in the framework and achievements, I have to mention the brown belt. For those who don't know, this is the penultimate level. The only thing left for her to get was the black one. Later, she went on to study law at the Pontifical Catholic University of São Paulo. Professor Luciano Basile, who taught the class, confessed that the girl never lost control of herself, she always showed calm and discipline. Another of her teachers, Daniela Laborio, claimed that the girl was one of the best students and never had to intervene in any matter related to Suzane. She had many acquaintances who described her as sweet, friendly, a little shy. She loved all kinds of stuffed animals and her favorite was a brown teddy bear. Suzane was not a stingy person, she was generous. She liked to give her friends specific gifts, such as a black and yellow box that imitated a dice. On another occasion, she filled a heart-shaped pillow with candies and chocolates. Like a typical teenager, she also roamed the malls with her friends. The trips were enjoyable because she actually saw it on the window, she just went in and bought it. Her father gave her pocket money. The 15-year-old also started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes. It is during sports classes that the girl meets Daniel. Daniel Cravinhos de Paula e Silva, an 18-year-old boy at the time, initially took a liking to Suzane's parents. They met him on a Sunday afternoon in August 1999 while walking in Ibirapura Park, the largest park in São Paulo, by the way. The boy was considered one of the best in the competition of model airplanes. Susie's younger brother was obviously charmed and captivated, and asked his parents to enroll him in a course. There was no problem with that, and in a short time Daniel was teaching everything about remote-controlled aircraft models. The 18-year-old also took the boy on bike rides and car races. The parents don't mind their children's acquaintance with Daniel, including Suzane starting to date him. Over time, this dating becomes quite serious, so much so that the girl sneaks out of the house at night to be with her beloved at the Disco Verde motel. However, they change their minds quite quickly, because they find out that the boy smokes weed almost every day. On top of that, he didn't want to study or work, and he came from a low working class. He made his living from the sale of 2 models of airplanes per month and from a small sale of parts for these airplanes to hobbyists. And everything seems to be normal. Such situations happen that the parents did not like our chosen one, but the couple came up with a plan that would forever change not only their lives, but Suzane's entire family. Before I get into that, I'd like to add that Marísia and Manfred also found out about Daniel's older brother, Christian. More specifically, they found out that the boy had just been admitted to the hospital for drug abuse. The hospital was definitely one of the boy's minor problems, as debts to drug dealers were much more serious. The icing on the cake was the information that he was an informant for the police. In general, it was not a desirable company in any way. In any case, in April 2001, the girl's parents find out about her lies and trysts. As a result, she is permanently banned from seeing Daniel. Since then, their relationship with her parents has deteriorated dramatically. Arguments began that lasted for months. In July 2002, Mr. and Mrs. von Richthofen went on vacation for a month, during which time Daniel moved into their home. Apparently, things were going well for them during that month, because when her parents returned, Suzane asked them to buy her an apartment where she could live with her lover. As you can imagine, Marísia and Manfred weren't thrilled with the idea. Her father told her that she could do whatever she wanted, as long as she earned her own money. I assume that he meant the money to buy this particular apartment. For the next few months, until the end of October of the same year, Suzane and Daniel met in secret. At the beginning of September, the 12th Battalion of the São Paulo Gendarmerie was called to the house in Campo Belo for the third time. They were summoned to an argument between Manfred and Daniel. Suzane tried to let the boy into the house in secret from her parents. Suzane had already tried similar tricks in May and June. Each time, her father stopped the boy at the gate. After this incident, the girl decided to put a plan into action. Late in the evening of October 31, 2002, the girl, who had been planning all this for several months, checked to see if her parents had fallen asleep. After making sure they were asleep, she deactivated the alarm system and let a 21-year-old boy into the property. The pair were joined by 26-year-old Christian, Daniel's older brother. The young men entered the house and went up the stairs to the von Richthofen bedroom, where they slept soundly. With the help of iron rods and towels, the brothers will make sure that Manfred and Marísia never wake up again. Meanwhile, the girl was waiting in the downstairs room, and when the men had finished their actions, they went downstairs and the three of them faked a break-in. Dan and Chris took the money they found in the house, scattered all the papers they could find, threw away the drawers. Generally, they tried to create such a typical mess after a burglary. When they finished their burglary, a pair of lovebirds went to a motel. On the other hand, the oldest member of this gang was made hungry by taking the lives of others, because he went to eat something at a fast food restaurant. The next morning, Suzane and Daniel drove to an internet cafe where they picked up 15-year-old Andreas, Suzane's brother. All three of them returned home, where they discovered what misfortune had taken place in the house during their absence. Of course, they called the police, and when they arrived, they told them a neat story. The police, however, did not believe the story. From the very beginning they assumed that something stinked here, that it did not look like a burglary and that probably the individuals who committed this violence were known to the family. Investigators began by interviewing the teenagers and family members and took a close look at the entire scene. It turned out that the daughter couldn't act out her grief over the loss of her parents, and the papers scattered around the house looked more like someone had deliberately spread them out in several places. There was also the issue of the deliberately turned off alarm. And coming back to Suzane herself, her behavior was shocking to the local police. The day after finding her parents, she was swimming in the pool with her lover, and a few hours after the funeral, she threw herself a 19th birthday party. It was suspicious. Of course, the police immediately began to follow both her and Daniel. On top of that, investigators learned that Christian had bought himself a motorbike, for which he paid in cash, $3.6K in $100 bills. Such an expense was far beyond his financial capabilities. Both he and his younger brother were arrested on November 9, 2002. In May 2005, The Supreme Court allowed Suzane to be released from prison and allowed her to await trial under house arrest. At that time, the girl was working hard to receive an inheritance from her parents. Apparently, there was a good chance that she would succeed. However, one fine day, the police found a revolver hidden in her beloved brown teddy bear in her room. Fearing for the life of the youngest member of the family, because the boy was entitled to half of the inheritance, they locked her up in custody. The trial of all three was supposed to begin on June 5, 2006, but for reasons unknown to me, it was delayed and finally began on July 17. They were charged with premeditated murder. The prosecutor in the case was Robert Tardelli. According to him, the girl wanted to get her hands on her parents' money and real estate, and she would inherit almost $17 million, so there was a lot to fight for. In addition, she simply wanted to have everything, but not work for anything. According to the girl herself, she did it all out of love because she was afraid that Daniel would eventually leave her if her parents continued to walk this earth. Her lawyer, Denivaldo Barney, said in court that she had no motive, that she was forced to do so by her boyfriend, whom she idolized like a god. The lawyer blamed the brothers. On the other hand, Geraldo Jabber, Daniel and Christian's lawyer, said that it was a girl who had an excellent education and spoke 3 languages who devised the whole plan, and in order to put it into practice, she claimed that her father was abusing her. In addition, in her letters to Daniel, Suzane claimed that her parents were alcoholics. The court denied the accusations, but the Crivinhos family provided the letters. During the trial, the girl behaved normally, did not show emotions, while the co-defendants showed some remorse and cried. The prosecutor demanded a sentence of 50 years in prison for each. On July 22, 2006, Suzane von Richthofen was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Her boyfriend got the same sentence. Christian Crivinhos received 38 years for conspiring for a known purpose. During the 3 years that the young couple were dating, Andreas became very close to Daniel and Christian's father, Astrogildo Crivinhos. The 15-year-old was so attached to the man that he ran straight to him during the funeral instead of his uncle Miguel, who had taken custody of his nephew. Later, he visited Astrogildo's house several more times. Both the teachers and other students at Virtus School, which the 15-year-old attends, have pledged to remain silent about his sister and the tragedy. Going back to what kind of woman Marísia was. According to her brother, she was cruel to the children and took it over from their mother Lourdes. Lourdes Abdallah, an immigrant from Lebanon, was a teacher. She loved to punish children by beating them with a bamboo stick, and since she also taught her daughter, the girl had seen this type of behavior from an early age and, what was worse, it amused her immensely. She liked to watch other children get hit by their mother, and when others suffered, she laughed out loud. 15 years after Suzane's sentence, she received a call from her younger brother, whose voice she did not recognize at first. Andreas was 29 years old and had earned a PhD in organic chemistry by then. During the silent years, Andreas filed a complaint against his sister for harassment, probably related to a dispute over the inheritance Andreas received after his parents' death. Speaking to his sister on the phone, Andreas agreed to meet her for lunch. Suzane anxiously awaited, but Andreas never showed. He turned back, never to speak to Suzane again, and fell into the common trap of remedying his trauma with drugs and alcohol. He could not understand why sister he loved so much, did what she did. Suzane von Richthofen, arrested since 2002 for killing her parents, was released in January 2023, after the criminal court granted progression to the open regime. She was imprisoned for 20 years in a prison in Tremembé City, São Paulo State. According to the Penitentiary Administration Secretariat, Suzane left the women's penitentiary. The Court of Justice reported that the case is under judicial secrecy, but confirmed that in a decision by the Second Criminal Execution Court, progression to the open regime was granted, after verifying compliance with the requirements established by the penal execution law. Thank you for listening to this story. If you would like to hear more, please subscribe to my channel.